Someday, someday, someday my prince will come. He will be winsome. He will be handsome. He will be strong and powerful. He will be everything I ever wished for. How many of you have watched a Disney movie? It's one of the main themes behind the majority of the princess movies, correct? I remember watching Snow White. In Snow White, her biggest dream was for her prince to come. She achieved that dream in the end. Because that's just how the world works, isn't it? If you wait around and do nothing, your dreams will come true. Unfortunately, this is kind of what we tell our kids quite often, especially with movies such like that. One of my very earliest memories. I was 6 years old, and I was in this room, this long, glossy, cherry oak table. All these men in suits. There were 5 men. One of them I had met prior to that day, but none of the others. I had a strawberry shortcake coloring book in front of me and some crayons, which I was intently drawing upon so I didn't have to look up at these strange people asking me some really tough questions. That was the first time I can remember thinking, someday. Someday. Someday he will regret it. Someday he will change. Someday. But that day is not today. And so I didn't tell the truth that day. As I got older and I moved into my middle school years, I again practiced the someday. I had been raised as a Baptist Christian, like Southern Baptist. Like that's like the down there, you're going to hell if anything you do is wrong. We went to church every Sunday. I was in the choir, in the youth group. I was part of some youth leadership thing where we went around in the community and did a bunch of stuff. It was a really amazing life. I had some ground morals. I had moved past some of the things from my younger childhood. One day my mom says, we're going to take a mental health day. You're going to stay home from school and it's just going to be you and I. That's exciting, right? I was 12 years old. We went out to lunch, we went and saw a movie, and then we went to the park. And we sat down. And my mom told me she was going to hell. My mom revealed that she was a lesbian. And oh, by the way, her girlfriend's going to be moving up with us in 2 weeks. My world crashed down around me. Today I can say I don't have any issues with it, but at 12, when I had been raised a Southern Baptist, it was the worst thing I could even think of. My mother. I couldn't show my face at church. I couldn't tell my friends. None of my friends came over to my house for years after that. Someday, if I keep talking to my mother, someday if I remind her of God's words, someday, my mom will change. I became a teenager. I remember at 15 years old, I decided to leave my mother's house. And I went and lived with my father. My mom and I had had a lot of ups and downs ever since her big reveal when I was 12. I'd begun to accept it. I'd begun to understand it. My mind had begun to open. But it was very, very tough. Those are formative years. We didn't get along very well. Someday, I will make my own rules. Someday, no one will be allowed to surprise me. Someday. I'm not going to go through everything from my teenage years. Those were rough. I had some pretty crazy teenage years. However, as a teenage girl who had grown up watching Disney movies, my biggest belief was that the right guy would fix my life. The right guy would make me happy. And someday I will find him. I dated quite a few different guys. I ended up getting pregnant by one. We did not get married. We did not last very long. I moved on into my young adult years. In my young adult years, I realized I was waiting for someday to happen. I was waiting for something else outside of myself to fix what I felt needed to be fixed. How many of you have done that? Probably more of us than we want to admit. Someday, I will have a boat. Someday, I will own my own house. Someday, I will win the lottery. You know the lottery is built on someday? As I began to mature and get older, and through some counseling, I'm not going to lie, I learned that someday my prince will come, had already come. I already found my prince. And the most surprising place of all, it was me. How do you save yourself? By looking inside of yourself. By deciding that it's time for a change. To everybody out there, I ask you. I found recently, it's really funny, on my way here today, I saw this sign. Someday starts today. And I'm like, that's hilarious, because that's like right along with my speech. That's from Florida Hospital, by the way. That's like their big campaign. And I want to say, I actually agree with that. But it's not Someday starts today. Someday starts with you. Thank you.